Hello there, welcome to Showcase. Recently, we brought you the newly opened Rami Library here in Istanbul, which has been designed as a cultural hub. And we returned there to talk about books with writer and former diplomat Vikas Swarup. Remember the story of a poor Mumbai boy who won big on a quiz show? Yes, our conversation began with Slumdog Millionaire, based on Swarup's international bestseller, as he told us why filmmakers are constantly pursuing his stories. Vikas Swarup, it's great to have you with us here on Showcase today. So you're a writer and former diplomat, and your debut novel, Q&A, was later adapted into the movie Slumdog Millionaire. And that became a box office hit. It won many awards, including 8 Oscars. So I'm wondering, how did it feel, and did you expect such success with your first novel?
No, I certainly did not, Esra Hanum, because I wrote this novel in just 2 months when I was posted in London. This is at the end of 2003. And when I was writing it, I had no idea that this very Indian story that I am writing would appeal to a global audience. But perhaps there was something about the story of this luckless orphan who gets to participate in a quiz show and becomes the winner that struck a chord with people across the world, because now it's been translated into 47 languages. Uzbek was the latest one. And the fact that, readers have responded to this novel in such a big way all across the world has been a matter of great satisfaction for me. And of course, the fact that readers in Turkey have also responded to this novel adds to my pleasure at being here in Turkey and speaking to you today.
Yes, thank you so much. We all love that. But we don't usually see many diplomats writing fiction, actually. And you tackle social and current issues still, but it's still fiction. And how did your journey start?
Yes, so actually I'm one of those writers who never had the opportunity to go to a creative writing workshop. I didn't even have English literature as my subject. I was always a reader, and it was the 35 years of reading that I did that enabled me to make the transition into being a writer. And that's why I always tell young people when I address them that if you want to be a writer, first be a reader. Because only when you are a reader, you will know and understand the value of words and how words are placed and the manner in which they are placed. And you will differentiate between what is good writing and what is bad writing. So for me, that's how the journey started. I was posted in London at that time. And some of my contemporaries in the Indian Foreign Service were trying their hand at fiction. And they were my inspiration, because I said, hang on, I never imagined this person could be a writer, but he's a writer, so can I also be a writer? So I wrote this book really in complete secrecy as a test against myself, that can I be a writer? Do I have a story within me? And at that time, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire was a top-rated game show in 110 countries across the world, including, I believe, in Turkey. And that's how this idea came to me. I said, why don't I have a contestant who has street knowledge as opposed to book knowledge, and see how that goes? And that's how Q&A was born.
Your other novel, 6 Suspects, was also adapted, this time for a TV series on Disney+. And do you think filmmakers are chasing your stories, or why do you think that may be?
I think one reason that people have told me is that I write in a very visual way. So when you read the words on the page, you can already visualize that scene in your head. And perhaps that's why the transition from the book into film becomes easier with my novels, because I've written 3 novels only. The first one became Slumdog Millionaire. The second one became The Great Indian Murder on Disney and Hulu. And the third one, The Accidental Apprentice, has also been optioned for either a film or a web series. So maybe the fact that I have a visual imagination, I write very visually, appeals to them. But more than that, I think my stories are very fast-paced, fast-moving, and yet they have an emotional core. I think that is probably what attracts filmmakers to those stories.
Will you ever consider to become a filmmaker, let's say from writing to directing?
I don't know. I think directing is a very different kind of a thing from writing. What I like about writing is that you can write what you want to write. But as a director, as a script writer, you have to write by committee. Somebody says, put in this, put in that. You don't have that kind of freedom that you have as a writer. So for the moment, I think I'm going to stick to being a writer. But of course, if somebody offers that, why don't you direct a film, I would always take up that challenge.
So I don't know about you, but to be honest, I can say we're all consumed by social media. So people, want to watch movies rather than reading books. And what's your comment on that?
Yes, I think you are absolutely right. I would say the image has overtaken the word. That's really what is happening. And especially with the kind of options that are available to us when you sit in front of the TV, you have Netflix, you have Prime Video, you have Disney, and you have a whole universe of entertainment at your fingertips. And that probably, encourages some people that, just sit in front of the idiot box and watch what's being beamed to you. But that's, I think we are doing ourselves a disservice. Because you see, the advantage of books is that when you read the words on the page, you imagine those words in your own head. And you can imagine them like you want them to. When you read a Harry Potter book, for instance, you can imagine yourself as Harry Potter. But when you watch the film of Harry Potter, then you cannot do that because Daniel Radcliffe is Harry Potter. And that little dialogue that you have, within your head, that space is gone. Your brain is colonized by the image, so to speak. So I think, yes, films have their own space, but nothing can replace reading. And I always say that, it is through books that the entire universe is contained in the world of books, and we should not lose touch with that universe.
So you're familiar with Turkey, we can say, as you worked here in the past. So do you find any similarities between Turkey and India in terms of literature? And I'm also wondering about your Turkish favorite artists and writers.
Well, when I was posted in Turkey, the artists at that time, I don't know whether the young Turkish readers or Turkish youth are relating to that, because at that time, Sezen Aksu was my big favorite. Zerrin Özer was a big favorite. Cem Karaca was a big favorite. But my absolute favorite used to be Barış Manço. And his song, Domates, Biber, Patlıcan, that was my absolute favorite. My wife and I used to enjoy watching a series on TV called Kim Bunlar. It was a comedy series that was also very good. We enjoyed the football matches between Beşiktaş and Galatasaray and Fenerbahçe. So, this visit back to Turkey after 30 years is a trip down memory lane, so to speak. And we are reliving all the things that we missed all these days. But the thing I missed the most was Turkish food. Because, we are absolute fans of Turkish cuisine. Iskender kebab was my favorite, is still my favorite. And I'm so looking forward to sampling all these delicacies during my stay here.
Amazing. So what kind of stories do people want to hear these days?
I think, people's tastes have changed quite a bit. So many new genres have come in, science fiction, fantasy, etc., which did not really exist 35, 40 years ago in the way they are existing now. But at the end of the day, I think people are looking for a good story. It does not matter what genre you're writing it, as long as you're writing a gripping story, a story with an emotional core where people can relate to that character. I think people would be interested in that kind of a story, whether you set it in Pandora or whether you set it in Istanbul. It does not matter. As long as you write a gripping story with gripping characters, people will relate to that.
And I'm also wondering about your muse, your inspiration, maybe cities like Mumbai.
My muse really is, everyday life. If you look at all three of my books, they are about ordinary people placed in extraordinary situations. And the advantage of living in India is, we are a nation of 1.4 billion people, which means we are a nation of 1.4 billion stories. Everyone has their own story. And just reading the Indian newspaper for one day can give you ideas for 5 or 6 different plots. So that's what I love about, India, the fact that, we have so much happening all the time that can inspire any reader, any writer to create something new.
Well, last but not least, can you give us a hint about your upcoming projects? What are you writing these days?
Since I became an Emekli diplomat, a retired diplomat, I have had more time to devote to writing, and I'm working on a new book. I will not reveal much beyond saying that it is also set in India, and it's a female character, a female protagonist. Because I think I'm attracted to female characters because, I think they have that mixture of strength and vulnerability, which you do not find in male characters as much. And that's what attracts me to them. And I'm very close to finishing it. So fingers crossed, I hope I finish it soon.
Can't wait to read it. Thank you so much for this lovely conversation.
It was my pleasure indeed. Thank you so much for having me.
Nuri Bilge Ceylan's newest feature film about dry grasses is competing for the top prize at this year's Cannes Film Festival. Ceylan has won more awards at the festival than any other Turkish director. Now, let's take a look back at the films that brought the director international fame.
An apple floating in the river, meadows dancing in the wind. wide, dry landscapes. Nuri Bilge Ceylan cinema has been affiliated with slowness and intimacy. When the director's first feature film, The Small Town, was released in 1997, it came as a shock for the Turkish film industry. Unlike other films of the era, it was minimalist, poetic, yet very much realistic. This generational tension from a small Anatolian town resembled the aesthetics of Tarkovsky and the slowness of Ozu. And when Distant was awarded the Grand Prix at Cannes 2002, the locality of Ceylan cinema proved its global posture.
Hazır mıyız? Hazır usta. Başlayayım mı?
Ceylan's first three films are considered a trilogy and depicted the simplicity of Anatolian rural life, generational discord, and the in-betweenness of the city and rural, as well as the elite and the vulgar. Ceylan's standing in Cannes has remained steady throughout the years. Climates won the Febreski Award 2006, followed 2 years later by the Best Director Award for Three Monkeys. In 2011, Once Upon a Time in Anatolia took home the Grand Prix, but the highest prize of the festival, Palme d'Or, came with Winter Sleep in 2014. It was a turning point for Ceylan's authorship journey and brought global recognition for Turkish cinema. The film depicted the story of an out-of-sight Turkish semi-intellectual trapped in a touristic town and his struggle between self-deception and acceptance among his social circle. The interpersonal tension was complemented by lengthy Chekhovian monologues. Although the essence of the director's aesthetic has remained constant throughout the years, the artistic emptiness of his early works has given way to lengthy philosophical dialogues and an expansion of character archetypes. In the 2018 Wild Pear Tree, Ceylan's effort to reflect Turkey's sociological mosaic was heavier than the character depth. It was the last Ceylan film to premiere at Cannes. But despite the applause, the film fell short of an award. Ceylan now returns to the lineup of Cannes 2023, and it's now a wait and see whether his TRT-produced new film about the dry grasses can bring home his second Palme d'Or.
U2 is familiar with rocking out in major sporting arenas and stadiums, but now it's aiming for something more enhanced. The band will soon hit the stage in Las Vegas and promises an experience like never before.
This footage is proof U2 knows how to put on a show for its fans. But as exciting as it seems, the band now has plans for a more immersive experience for its upcoming U2 UV Achtung Baby Live at Sphere shows in Las Vegas.
A video screen, inside and out.
This is a high-tech globe-shaped venue, which the band members are pretty excited about.
But no one really sits down when they're designing one of these sports arenas and thinks about the sound. You know, that's like way down on their list of priorities. But in this venue, it's one of the first things they thought about. And not only are the visuals way more impressive than anything else that's out there, the audio side of it is also completely groundbreaking.
The Edge says at the Sphere they could even deliver a vocal or a sample music arrangement that's really delicate.
The people will be able to hear perfectly, whereas if you were trying that in an arena or a stadium, it would just be impossible. You wouldn't hear anything, you'd just hear mush. So it's opening up all kinds of creative possibilities.
The venue will have a capacity of nearly 20,000 guests, along with high-resolution LED screens that halfway wrap around the audience, and thousands of speakers will deliver a crystal-clear multi-layered audio system for every seat inside.
The technology's never been available, so we can literally, in sonic terms, but also in visual terms, we can have our audience not be kind of looking at the show, but be in the middle of the show, in the middle of the sound, with the sound all around you.
And it's even more exciting as U2 is pumped to return to the stage for the first time in 4 years. The Edge says it could be a quantum leap forward. Well, that sounds like a beautiful day.
Diane von Furstenberg is back in her hometown, Brussels, to celebrate 50 years of her glamorous career. And she's done it with an exhibition that summarizes what made her a fashion icon.
Diane von Furstenberg was a 20-something designer when she moved to New York in 1970. In just 3 years, she was already making 25,000 wrap dresses a week, living what she calls her American dream as a young European. She says her biggest inspiration has been herself and her mother.
Well, because my big influence in my life for my work and for everything is being a woman. I'm a big feminist. I love nature, which is reflected in my prints, but all of it is about freedom. And what I think describes why this love and need for freedom is the fact that 18 months before I was born, my mother was a prisoner of war. She was a skeleton amongst ashes. She went to concentration camps, and she wasn't supposed to survive.
The simple design of the wrap dress reflects the freedom von Furstenberg had been searching for in her design.
So the jersey, very practical, doesn't crinkle. You put in a print that moves and moves with your body, that all of a sudden makes beautiful curves in your body. The shape, very simple, adjustable, no zipper, no button, very adjustable. Go for it. And that's it. And then the rest, it makes a woman confident. And if you're confident, you're beautiful.
This exhibition at Brussels Fashion and Lace Museum is the first in Europe dedicated to a Belgian-American designer. The show, titled Woman Before Fashion, is a retrospective of a career that has been lived to its fullest.
So at this point of my life, because I've lived so fully, I should really be 350 and not 76. What is most important to me is to use my voice, my experience, my knowledge, my resources, my connections in order to help other women to be the women they want to be.
Von Furstenberg combined the practical with the stylish and made a trademark statement in the fashion world. And she humbly says she did not make the wrap dress, but the dress rather made her.
Romantic comedies have recently made a rousing comeback. Spy cinema has also been on a similar successful streak over the past few years. Now, blockbusting star Chris Evans' new movie combines these two bankable genres for maximum appeal.
Espionage-tinted franchises like James Bond and Mission Impossible defined action cinema for years. Not only that, but they also became some of the most successful movies at the box office.
I was just wondering if you wanted to, go out sometime.
You want to get a coffee?
Now?
Yes, now.
And with the likes of Jennifer Lopez and Reese Witherspoon returning to romantic comedies in the 2020s, fanfare is also stirring for that once-forgotten genre.
She does travel a lot for work. Go to her. I'm going to London.
Chris Evans' new movie, Ghosted, plays both sides. In it, he's mistaken for a famous CIA agent and ends up falling for a real agency operative without knowing her real identity.
Who are you?
CIA.
I'm so confused. They kept asking me about the taxman.
They asked you about the taxman?
They think I am a taxman. You're the taxman.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
That setup makes room for both action stunts and romance, where the stars do the heavy lifting.
And go!
Their pairing is called Electric, And the actors say the reason is quite simple.
I'm guessing you work out.
We genuinely like each other. We're since day one, since we have met, really, like in Knives Out. It didn't feel like it was day one. It was it's just a very easy relationship. It's not one of those friendships that you have to work for it to maintain. It just is. Like
on the treadmill.
We speak the same language.
She's the one who ghosted you.
No, she didn't ghost me. She just doesn't have an international calling plan.
Oh, right.
According to the director, the professional relationship between his performers definitely shows on the screen.
When you get them together, it's like a chemical reaction that, look, they're great friends and they have great respect for each other. This is their third movie together. And, there's a natural friendship and a bond there that I get to exploit as the director, because you see them together and you just root for this couple because they have a genuine friendship, and what better couple could you have than people who are friends as well as everything else.
You got me kidnapped and tortured all after one day.
Critics say the movie has the feel of North by Northwest. That classic also had a similar plot, where an everyday man found himself in intrigue and featured stars with chemistry. Above all, it was a picture by Alfred Hitchcock, who knew one or two things about mixing humor, romance, and espionage. So the North by Northwest comparison may have a point after all. But then again, that's for audiences to decide.
Do you trust me?
Is that a joke?
I'm the boyfriend.
Pompeii's most famous townhouse has finally reopened after 20 years of restoration. Its frescoes and vivid colors take visitors all the way back to the ancient Rome.
This is a domus, a type of townhouse that was common in major cities of the Roman territories 2,000 years ago. They were typically owned by the upper class, or just like the house of the Vettii in Pompeii, by wealthy former slaves.
The house of the Vettii is like the history of Pompeii and actually of Roman society within one house. So you have the great artwork, we're seeing here the last phase of the Pompeian wall painting with incredible details. So you can stand before these images for hours and still discover new details. And there are the sculptures in the garden. So you have this mixture, nature, architecture, art. But it's also a story about the social life of the Pompeian society and actually the Roman world in this phase of history.
Named after its owners, the house belonged to two men who did not come from noble Roman families but had to work hard to climb the social ladder.
And they evidently try to kind of show their new status also through culture and through Greek mythological paintings, and it's all about saying, well, we have made it, and so we are now part of this elite, local elite in the Roman world.
Apart from denoting status, the decorations had other purposes.
The House of the Vettii has always been a case study on how do these paintings reflect the dreams and imagination and anxieties of the owners, because they lived in between these images. And so on the one hand we see Greek myth, which is a very learned, kind of showing off your knowledge, because during the banquets you then had to comment these paintings and you could show that you really understood what was going on there. And then it's also sometimes some kind of identification.
The restorers have worked hard to make sure all this beauty survives another 2,000 years.
These frescoes had a particularly fortunate life because they were protected from the very first excavations of the house, in the sense that covers were immediately made, that therefore preserved a lot of the decorative fabric.
But that means reversing the work of some of their predecessors, which, though well intended, did more harm than good.
On the other hand, since they were considered important frescoes from the very beginning, they underwent a whole series of very heavy-handed maintenance procedures, such as a repeated application of paraffin to revitalize the colors and restore the legibility of the image, which resulted in them becoming very blurred over time, because very thick and opaque layers formed, making it difficult to read the fresco.
Now that the work on the domus is done, it's clear we have one of the most catastrophic natural events of antiquity to thank for this pristine window into history.
That's it for this episode of Showcase. I'm Esra Dürüst from me and the whole team here in Istanbul. Thanks for watching and bye for now.